Hey everybody, Eric Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and this is my review of the Orthos Raider S4 shotgun. As you may or may not know, most of my videos, in fact almost all of my videos, are now Patreon exclusive. So if you want to get the latest videos, in fact this video was released months ago, and you want to see videos that you'll never see here on YouTube, you can head on over to Patreon and become a subscriber, and I appreciate it. If not, no big deal, still going to be dropping at least one YouTube video a month. Without further delay, let's get to this review. If this thing looks like a Benelli, it's kind of intentional. The Orthos is built off a Turkish manufacturer, knockoff, copy, replica, whatever you want to call it, of the venerable Benelli M4. And as you guys know, not a huge shotgun guy. However, a Benelli has been a shotgun I've owned for quite a long time. In fact, when they first came out, and this was 20 years ago, a little bit more now, just out of the Army, once I started making a little bit of money as a contractor, one of the first purchases I made was a Benelli M4, and the initial ones were plagued with cycling issues based on the ammunition type that you put in them, gas system inertia issues like that. And eventually they got that all straightened out, and it became one of the most popular semi-automatic shotguns out there. The Turkish people are world-renowned for making replicas of other firearms, or knockoffs or copies, or what do you want to call it. Some of them are licensed, some of them aren't. There's, as legend has it, a number of HK manufacturing machines in Turkey, and they produce very good copies of MP5 and other HK variants. And they've done Beretta and of course, Benelli and some other firearms as well, SIG, things like that. So what are you getting when you get a Turknelli? Well, Orthos takes the Turknelli shotgun, or whatever terminology you want to use, the Turkish-made Benelli M4 copy, and they modernize it a little bit, add some accessories to it, and maybe give you the benefits of the cheaper gun initially, and when you get all your modifications put on it, you end up having a similar shotgun, hopefully, to the Benelli M4 for less money. Now, my particular Raider, the S4, I got it in OD green, and it is an SBR, or SBS, I should say, 14-inch gun. So standard capacity on their 18-inch guns is 6+1. This gun is 5+1. It does have the extended magazine tube. It's got QD up front. It has the shock force stock with adjustable comb cheek riser, which I'll be talking about. Accessory rail. It's got iron sights, and it's got everything just on face value that a Benelli is going to have. Stock, of course, being a little bit different. And it has a rail that is suspiciously similar to the agency arms rail for the Benelli. I don't know if it's a copy. I don't. I can't say definitively. However, I've got both rails, and I can't tell the difference. So there's some questions there, but we'll move on from that. Now, it does come with its own M-LOK rail accessories. I replaced those with rail scales because I prefer rail scales for my M-LOK grip and heat protection. Went with a Surefire Turbo Light and Unity Tactical Hot Button M-LOK mount. I went with a Truco Witness ScalarWorks mount and a HoloSun optic. The reason I went with the ScalarWorks is I didn't have to replace the PIC system in order to get co-witness, like you're going to have to do with a lot of the optics that are out there. So because of the ScalarWorks design, I can look underneath my optic and use my iron sights if I need them, or I just raise my vision and I'm able to use the optic itself. And because the cheek on the shock force stock is adjustable, I didn't really have any cheek weld issues in regards to using iron sights versus the optic. There is, of course, a large bolt release and a large bolt handle, and I mean, that's pretty much it for the accessories and the standard features. Now, for full disclosure, Orthos did send me this shotgun for the review purpose. I was going to buy one anyway, but I got to talking on Instagram, and they slid into my DMs and offered to send me one. So, of course, if you're going to offer, I'm going to go ahead and take you up on it. Of course, I do have a critical look on this because, one, I have a Benelli M4. I've had it for years. It's actually my second one. I got rid of the first one because of the gas problems, ended up buying another one later. And like I've said, I don't really care for shotguns. The cool thing about the Raider S4 right out of the box is it comes with a lot of accessories. So you're getting the standard configuration, you're getting the M-LOK rail, you're getting the adjustable stock, you're getting the enlarged controls, and you're also getting a number of different chokes, including a breaching choke, which I thought was pretty cool. If you wanted to put a breaching device on there, you'll notice it does have ventilation, as all breaching devices should, at least in my experience using shotguns for ballistic breaching. Maybe not something you're necessarily going to do, but it is a nice feature and it's available, and it looks badass. So if you're just going for the aesthetics of it, it's pretty cool. Putting it on an 18-inch gun versus putting on a 14-inch gun, obviously, the length is going to change a little bit. As far as mounting goes, I got that front pickup front for the Surefire weapon light. Didn't have any issues with that throughout the review. Of course, a 2,000 round review on a shotgun obviously takes longer, so I've been working on this for quite some time. Getting into it initially, I did have some problems. There were a couple of cycling issues that happened occasionally within that first 300 rounds, and I was using knockoff nonsense Protector brand double-aught buck, really not good high quality stuff, but I'm also shooting a lot of Federal. When I go 12 gauge, I generally used Federal ammunition, their tactical line or their LE line stuff, the blue hole versus the red hole, double-aught buck, 1 ounce slugs, things like that. So I had more issues, and we're talking like a handful. I'd say 10, 15 cycling issues during one magazine tube being fed, where I'd have 1, maybe 2 rounds that wouldn't cycle properly. They wouldn't fully extract. No issues with failure to fire or anything like that, so firing pin and all the internal mechanics there are working good, but sometimes the gas cycling issue was a problem. But that went away after those initial first problems. In the last, I'd say, 1,700 rounds of 12 gauge I put through this thing, I didn't have a single hiccup. Now, you guys know I'm not big on comparisons, but because this gun literally is a copy of a Benelli M4, it's unavoidable to talk about the performance of the Benelli M4 versus the Raider S4. The Benelli M4 is a very smooth gun, factory built, and it's a little bit more expensive than some of the other shotguns that are out there. Of course, semi-automatics are usually more expensive anyway. And I got to tell you, the only thing that would happen throughout the review that I would know that I was shooting Turkish, improved, of course, Orthos doesn't improve it, but an improved version of a Turkish shotgun versus the Benelli is the safety manipulation. The safety on the Raider S4 is a little bit more sure. It's a little bit more, it feels more positive. You don't have to apply an unrealistic amount of force to overcome to go from safe to fire or going from fire back to safe. But that's the one thing that I really noticed. Another thing, of course, is the stock, the Shock Force stock. And with semi-automatic shotguns, something I played with in the review process is not having a proper shoulder weld. And what I found in the past, teaching shotgun classes back when I used to, but also just general experience being around shotguns my whole life, like most of you guys have, with gas guns, inertia-driven or gas or however the operating system works, if it's not properly pushed back into the shoulder, it can cause cycling issues. So I was purposely, occasionally, running this thing just barely making shoulder contact or a little bit out of the shoulder altogether. You can see it on the video where the recoil is definitely more atrocious when you behave like that. And didn't have any issues. And I did it periodically throughout the 2,000 rounds, and it didn't cause any cycling issues well, it didn't cause any cycling issues. Another cool thing about the Shock Force stock is it does have some recoil mitigation springs built in. That butt pad right there has got some spring pressure tension to it, so you can really dig into it. And it does actually provide and make this a little bit of a softer shooting gun. In my experience, pump action SBSs are a little bit more violent than semi-automatics. But this particular gun, even if you're going to burn down all 5 or all 6 rounds you have in the gun really, really quick, as far as from a sight picture perspective, you're going to be able to stay on target if you know how to handle a shotgun. The trigger on the S4 is not, I guess, factory. They call it an advanced trigger. I don't necessarily know what that means, but I'm breaking right around 2 pounds consistently on my trigger gauge. Feeding of the gun from violin loading or anything like that, it doesn't really have an improved feed ramp. There's nothing really special about the lifter, but the gate area is pretty large. So if you were going to violin load this thing, if that's a technique that you use or you practice, you're not really going to have any issues there, but it's not really doing you a whole lot of favors. You got a lot of hard edges. They are kind of radiused or rounded off, but there's nothing about the feed gate that's going to assist you in the loading. And that's kind of a missed opportunity, I think. I think with all the accessories they're putting on this shotgun, it would have been nice for them to include some kind of adapter aftermarket device. Of course, that's mainly an issue for violin loading, which is something not everybody does, but it's a big thing in 3-gun because that's how you get the shotgun reloaded the fastest. Because the rail's M-lock, if you want to put a match saver on there, that's not going to be a big deal. I didn't run a saddle on it at all because I just didn't feel like ordering one. So anytime I was doing reloads on this thing, they were either administrative or I was feeding off of a belt caddy, or sometimes just right out of my pocket. No big deal there. Throughout the 2,000 rounds, I'm shooting a lot of federal, like I said, 1-ounce slugs, double-aught, triple-aught buck, true flight, non-true flight, and then just a bunch of nonsense. I shot a lot of AAA, BB, AAA number 8, AAA number 6. That Winchester is what I'm talking about. I think it's AAA. And really just any kind of 12 gauge rounds I get my hands on. I do keep a pretty reasonable stockpile of just in case ammo, but also practice and filming and review ammo. And whatever I fed it after that handful of malfunctions I had in the beginning, it just ran. And I was running it, I would run 6, 7 tubes in a row. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 rounds. Sometimes I'd burn through 100 rounds before I knew it and then let it cool off. And I didn't have any issues running it cool. And of course, that shouldn't be that big of a deal, although some guns, some shotguns, semi-automatic shotguns tend to be a little finicky on those first couple of rounds, especially during, if it's really cold outside. And I started this review when it was still winter, getting into spring now. Heat changes, no issues there. Performance has been fantastic. And I got to be honest, I was hoping to have some glaring consideration to talk about where I could really point out the significant differences between the S4 and the Benelli. And other people may have differing opinions based on reviews that are out there. I know there are some reviews out there, I'm sure, where somebody literally does a head-to-head comparison against the Benelli. I didn't do that. It just comes up where it needs to. I can't find, aside from that safety, I can't find any significant performance as far as operation and cycling of the gun difference between the Benelli and the Raider S4. And I think that's kind of a testament to the quality of the shotgun that's coming out of Turkey, but also what Orthos is doing to modify it into the Raider S4, because you're getting a lot of value for what they're putting into it. Now, cost, of course, is going to be on you. If you'd rather have a Benelli shotgun, then by all means, just buy the Benelli. But I don't think if you bought one of these, and of course, they're not the only people selling this particular shotgun. You can also find it as a Panzer, brand Panzer M4, I believe they call it, the Panzer M4, not S4. It could be S4. And Military Armament Corporation is also selling Turkish-made shotguns that are either Benelli's or some other brand. So you don't have to necessarily grab the Orthos, but just talking specifically about it. And the problem is I tried to find which manufacturer in Turkey was making this specific shotgun, and I couldn't find that information. You may have better luck. For me, performance with the shotgun always comes down to reliability and, of course, patterning. How accurate is it going to be? Now, this is a 14-inch gun, so you're not necessarily expecting the same velocity or the same tight spread patterns, but it is interesting to see. So for accuracy check, I'm looking at 25 yards, and I did a 5-round group off of Federal 1-ounce slug. Show you guys that 5-round group right now. With slugs, that's not really a big surprise. 1-ounce slugs out of a 14-inch gun, yes, you are losing 4.5 inches of barrel there for velocity, but you're not really going to lose a great deal of accuracy because 14 inches is plenty of barrel to stabilize that round. Now, generally where you see SBSs kind of fall short, depending on what you're trying to do with your shotgun, is with spread shot. So your number 6, your number 8, your BB, whatever. I'm using double-aught buck, also Federal tactical, the True Flight. And True Flight generally holds tighter patterns. So again, 25 yards, going for center of the bullseye here. I did 5 rounds, 25 yards, bench rest supported. And, well, I'll just show it to you. Here's that 5-round group. Now, I should have zoomed the camera out a little bit in expectation of that, but the spread pattern was not great. I mean, I'm hitting the everywhere. I was able to maintain a great deal of that double-aught in the chest, but there was still strikes in the neck, strikes in the abdomen, strikes that missed the target completely, doing a ball count there at the end, 5 rounds. And I guess I kind of expected it out of a 14-inch gun. Generally, shotgun spread, it's going to spread based on barrel length. So the shorter the barrel is, the faster the spread begins, if that makes any sense. So an 18-inch gun is going to keep it a little bit tighter, and I just know that from shooting the Benelli versus this. The Benelli is an 18.5, and this particular gun is a 14. and definitely a difference in spread there, so something you'd have to be aware of, but you're still at 25 yards being able to hit a man-sized target and keep most of your pattern up in that high thoracic. So what are my final thoughts on the Raider S4? Well, I actually I don't know if I hate to say it, but I'm surprised to say it. The quality of this gun is, I think, commensurate with the price. Are you getting a better, more durable gun if you buy the Benelli M4? I would say you probably are, because just breaking this gun down and looking at the internal parts, I can definitely see that they're a little bit rougher finish than what you're going to get from a Benelli, those parts that weren't replaced by Raider. But you're getting a shotgun that, from performance stake, depending on what kind of round count you're going to be looking at. If you're buying a Benelli M4 and you're going to be shooting that thing 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 rounds a year, I'd buy the Benelli M4. If you're going to buy a shotgun and realistically shoot at 300, 400, 500 rounds a year, I think you'd be fine with the Raider S4, and you can also obviously order Benelli parts and replace those parts that are of a quality variance between the Raider S4 and the Benelli M4. Functionally, the gun shoots just as well, cycles just as reliably, performs just as good. I didn't have any particular issues with this as far as fit, finish, rough, manipulation, controls, nothing like that that made it really set itself apart from the Benelli, except for, like I said, that safety, which is like a really small issue, and it's not an issue at all. It's just a divergence of performance. So overall, I think you're getting a really good value for the shotguns, considering the price fully loaded compared to a bone stock Benelli M4. There's some value there. So I guess it comes down to, do you want to buy a Turkish shotgun that's masquerading as a Benelli M4? Till next time, patrons, Aaron Cowan, Stage Dynamics. Train accordingly.